Hi, this is Andrew Henry, and I'm going to share some of my observations and summary of the GSA self-assessment. So, when I did it initially, I actually had some trouble contextualizing. I think one of the suggestions was, place the sliders as how often I think about X or Y or Z, and especially with the, I would say like race-based things or things to do with being a cis white male, I always try to consider that because I try to check my privilege as often as I can. But labeling separate things as dominant or non-dominant, it felt weird to put things as non-dominant because even with things like, I'll give you an example. So ethnic, racial identity was non-dominant because where I live in rural Maine, there's just not a lot of experiences or there's not a really large population of people that come from backgrounds and ethnic or racial backgrounds other than white. We do have actually a fairly strong indigenous population represented here, but at the end of the day, there just aren't a lot of other ethnic groups here. But labeling it as non-dominant or I guess unimportant felt odd because it's something that I always still try to consider and think about. I also felt with I think it was the disability section. So it was somewhat non-dominant because I was conflicted, but for me personally, so I was diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, which is a learning disability. So it's always a part of me, but I try not to define myself by it. So I moved that slider around a couple times trying to think, where does this really belong and is placed? So it was really interesting to sort of have this force my hand in terms of reflecting on what parts of where I live are really dominant versus what parts of my experience are dominant for me, and kind of comparing and contrasting those two. One of the other observations I had was that I put the gender-related characteristics, I think I labeled them all as important because, like I said before, I'm a cis white male. I have more privilege than most. It could be argued that cis white males have more privilege than anybody. So I really felt like that was an important kind of cornerstone for me to be able to pinpoint. Like I said, I try to work hard at checking my privilege on a daily basis, transparently and otherwise. So I definitely think that more characteristics of those identity than not allow me with more advantages in society than disadvantages. If a cis white male, was not used to other people, other minorities, or other people who are not cis white males gaining more privilege and gaining more of a foothold in privilege in society, a lot of times there's like a backlash about feeling more like, the classic Facebook thing, like, oh, feeling oppressed because other people like minorities, blah, 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 getting this, getting that, getting handouts. And, we've all seen it. But at the end of the day, the way that I try to explain it sometimes is that people who are non-cis white males just want to level the playing field. It's not that they want more or less. That everybody really, at the end of the day, needs to have an equal foothold in society. So, the angry cis white men are not losing a foothold. It's just that everybody else really needs to be treated and be the same and be given the same privileges. So, those are kind of my observations there. I'm curious to watch everybody else's responses and sort of see where everybody falls. It was a really revealing and very interesting set of self-assessments.